Should I proceed?
Yes, please.
Yes, please, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So, first of all, thank you, Maria Teresa Wayne, for the opportunity. The presentation I'm planning for today is basically an introduction of what the CRA, what we know so far, how we are getting prepared for that. So there are still many things that are not clear, and those are aspects that will be sorted out in the coming months, hopefully, worst case year. But yeah, also to share what's the work that we are doing as Eclipse Foundation to get ready and prepared for the CRA. So first of all, the CRA, and the most important thing is what the CRA is about, and it's basically protecting European consumers and businesses from cyber threats. When they started working on the CRA, the figure that basically triggered all the alarms was the economic impact of cyber attack in 2021, who was 5.5 trillion. So that's something that was used as a signal of we need to do something, and they started working on the CRA. So basically, why the CRA is concentrating so much attention? Because yeah, the text and the measures that are included in it are quite common sense in a way, but that's something that is changing the way manufacturers should plan and deliver and maintain the products they are putting in the European market. And basically, there are new obligations for manufacturers and retailers. And manufacturers and retailers are the two um, entities or two type of stakeholders that are affected more by the CRA, although everyone is somehow impacted. And the first aspect that is super important is that manufacturers are responsible for every single element inside the product. So that includes the open source code that they are putting in the product. So now they should establish, or they need to decide how they are going to rely on open source code and what are the things they are putting in and how they are going to maintain a relationship with those projects, because of this second element, that they are now responsible through the full product life cycle. So it's not just assured that my product is fine when it is presented in or put in the European market available for consumers, but it should be also maintained once the product is being used. And that's something that changed again the way the processes are set for manufacturers. And the third element is that they are also responsible for reporting vulnerabilities and fix them. And as we said at the beginning, they are responsible for every piece of code that is in the product, and now they are responsible for reporting vulnerabilities and fix them. So they need to establish a new relationship, or a relationship with the open source projects they are putting in their products. So that's the main changes that the CRA is bringing goes in this direction. It's not only, of course, the size of the fines and all the things related to liability, but also the type of new structures and processes that need to be put in place to comply with the regulation. All right, so then we have an important aspect, and this is a very, very, very rough overview of the CRA. If we start speaking about details of the CRA, we can spend lots of hours. But one important aspect is the different type of products. Why? Because depending on the type of product, you need to perform a different type of validation or assessment before putting it in the market. Most of the products, 95%, is expected to fall under the default category, which basically you need to demonstrate that through a self-assessment process that your product fits the requirements of the CRA. So you create the processes internally, define how you are developing it, demonstrate that you are complying with everything, and your own declaration that the things have been done properly, it's enough. Then we have important products, which requires third-party assessment for key systems of the product. So part of the things that are included in the products are or requires self-assessment. Some others need to be validated by a third party. Critical products, yeah, basically potential future certification requirement. That's something that is currently under or in the standardization process to define how this will be set up. But those are like a different type of beast, and usually most of them are already going through other certification processes, so it's not that huge the change for them, but it's important to have that in mind. And finally, free and open source, because it's defined as a new category in the in the CRA. So basically, the CRA has, if it's yeah, falls under self-assessment unless deemed critical, if they are products based on they are products. Sorry. Okay, the role under the CRA, that's probably one of the most important. I said at the beginning that manufacturers and retailers are the ones that are in the focus of the regulation. So it's anyone placing a product on the European market. But we have also open source software stewards, which is a new actor, which is essentially code hosting foundations or for profit can be stewards too if they are not monetizing the project. So it's not only restricted to foundations, but could be other actors that are not monetizing those open source projects. The CRA also includes a definition of what is an open source project that fits very well what is defined by OSI, so nothing that will be changing the way we understood the concept here. And finally, open source maintainers, which is basically hobbyist projects that are in scope, but they are widely adopted and indirectly impacted. So those are the main roles. As I said at the beginning, liability falls under manufacturers and retailers, but we have the open source stewards. But yeah, more in depth, what is exactly an open source steward, an open source software steward? And it is defined in Article 24 of the CRA, and it basically a list of things that should be done by them. So be a registered legal entity, support viability and long-term sustainability of an open source project, put in place verifiable cybersecurity policy, cooperate with the market surveillance authorities, and handling the mandatory reporting if they are involved in the development of or incident prone infrastructure, and inform users about exploited vulnerability or severe incidents. As you saw here, there is nothing related to fixing code or things like that. So basically, it's a role that supports how the projects are performing and facilitate, because yeah, that's the main objective of stewards, facilitate the access to the code to be put in products that will be launched in the European market. So that's the main yeah, role of stewards, not fixing code, but actually facilitate and yeah, create a structure that will allow anyone who is using open source yeah, to meet the CRA requirements. So that's a super quick high-level introduction of the CRA, but what we are doing to be prepared for the CRA and how we are supporting yeah, the different projects. And there are basically three main elements. The first one is the CRA expert group. We are members of the CRA expert group, and under this group, what it's discussed basically with the European Commission, with the participation of the different member states and some associations that try to represent the whole group of stakeholders involved in the European market, is how the implementation will take place. It's basically help them or help the Commission in provide good guidance for a good understanding of the CRA. And we are especially focused mainly on everything that is related to the guidance on open source. But there are other yeah, activities like remote data processing, the intersection with other regulations, in which we are yeah, we are participating, but not with the same level of involvement. In regards of regarding the FOSS guidance, which is basically our main area of work, What we have done so far is basically help the European Commission to understand the reality of open source and try to finish some of the myths that are around, basically how open source communities work, especially those that involves, people from manufacturers getting involved and contributing to those projects. And the way we are doing it is, not only by providing definitions or clarifications to some of the elements that were included in the text, but also by providing clear examples of projects that can be used as reference to clarify, whether what monetization is, how we can rely on different technologies, if a manufacturer is acting as steward, if this is something that works or not. So it's basically trying to clarify some of the gray areas that the legal texts still have. The second group of activities in which we are involved is the standardization, and that's basically, the CRA has the text and the annexes. The annexes define the activities that should be implemented to demonstrate compliance with the CRA, and we are actually involved in what is called the horizontal standards that basically affects all products, and we are and that's something that has been developed in Sensenelec. We are now quite advanced in the process of having the horizontal standards finally published. And then what we are working on is on defining specifically what needs to be done and how those activities can be demonstrated by anyone. So you follow the standard and you demonstrate that you are complying with the CRA. That's basically the main objective of our participation in those activities. What we have faced is that contributing to standards is not as easy as we can imagine. For instance, if you follow the CLIS Foundation specification project process and you try to move one of our specifications into ISO standard, it's something that it's quite doable, and we have good examples of Eclipse projects that went through that. With Sensenelec, and in this case, the situation is completely different, and it's basically try to gather consensus about how things need to be worked out. So some of the issues that we have faced in the standardization activities is the role of open source in the standards. So for that, after pushing or clarifying some of the definitions, because the main objective in our contributions to the standards is to avoid the misunderstanding of open source project treated as suppliers. So that's something that is not acceptable and will not happen. What we have done is to bring some of the things that we think should be part of the standards that the standardization body decided that is not the place for that, as documents that can be shared elsewhere. For instance, the two initiatives that we are hosting in the CLIS Foundation. So the first one is the Open Regulatory Compliance, which is a working group in which basically we are working manufacturers and the open source community to build sustainable cooperation for achieving regulatory compliance. As I said before, identify what are those aspects that are not clarified by the Commission or by the different standards, and create assets that can be used by the whole community to understand what are the activities they should implement to demonstrate compliance. We recently launched a Stewards White Paper, which is an approach to share what are the activities that should be implemented, what are the interfaces they need to work with, and how the whole role of the stewards should be implemented. The second one is work closely with the institutions, because of course the voice of open source is wider than the CLIS Foundation voice. So through this group we are working together with over 20 open source foundations. I think we are close to 65 members in the whole working group, including manufacturers, foundations, and associations. And it's basically try to identify what are the key concerns that we have, bring them to the different institutions, mainly the European Commission, but we are also starting to work with different member states in the European Union, and help them to understand again the work that was done before the CRA was launched by some foundations to basically properly reflect what open source is. And that's something that we need to go deeper into some aspects and also replicate with member states. And finally, supports engagement to discuss the impact and application of the CRA. So the CRA is quite generic, and there are a lot of corner cases, a lot of gray areas. And what we are trying to do is to identify them, try to propose a solution, and bring those cases to the Commission to get kind of assessment or approval of what we think, and if we are wrong, get a valid interpretation of that. And yeah, for that we have our regular calls, but of course the events we recently have one during FOSDEM, code and compliance. Well, it was fully booked, but the next one is Open Community for Compliance that will happen during OCX. So yeah, if you are attending OCX, take a look to the compliance track, because there are a lot of talks that focus on how to implement the CRA, which is now the challenge. The other initiative that I want to mention here is Octet, which is a research project funded by one of the agencies of the European Commission, in which our mission is to empower SMEs with accessible, efficient, and secure solutions for open source integration. Then basically one of the most important aspects is how to facilitate to SMEs compliance with the CRA, and how this can be done using open source software for them. So currently, Octet is actively looking for open source projects with diverse structures and technologies to join as real world use cases, and including projects that already generated SBOM files. So that's an important thing. So get in touch with my colleagues from Octet. I think that Seb is in the call, but we have also the link to website and the contact form in the presentation. So in summary, there is still a lot of gray areas in the implementation of the CRA. So the most important thing is that the CRA is not addressing, or is not designed to go after open source project. It's basically focusing on the responsibilities of manufacturers and retailers. The second one is that, I haven't go into the details of the different processes, because it's still not clear what is going to be part of those things required by the standards. But participating in the standardization bodies, what we have seen is that open source projects, first, the CRIS Foundation is ready to take the role of stewards, and therefore support all our hosted projects. But also the processes that we have are fully aligned with the objectives of the CRA. So that will make super easy for all the projects to be used as they are used now. So that's something that is super important, because you need to demonstrate a few things, and the security policy is one of that, and basically the development process that we have covers pretty well the CRA requirements, and that's something that is super important. Still, need to be certified when the standardization or the standards are out. But we are in pretty good shape to support all the open source projects that are hosted by the Commission. And finally, if you want to be part of the CRA implementation journey, because it looks like the CRA was set, but there are still a lot of moving pieces that can be, or you can contribute or influence the direction they are taking. As we said before, join the Open Regulatory Compliance Working Group and its conversations. All of them are open. Of course, we want more members, but since the conversations are open, I think it's important to reflect properly what we think as a community, and based on that, report back to the institutions how things should look like when implemented. And also join Octet as a use case if you want to test the tools they are developing, and explore opportunities to cooperate in other cases. So that's my presentation. Yeah, I don't know if you have questions.
So we don't have any questions on the chat, but you can always follow up with Juan after the call.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you, Juan. Yeah, Sebastian, thank you for posting the link. There's a link in the chat to Octet. Karen, go ahead.
Just something I'd like to highlight among what Juan said, like when there's a lot of details of CRA compliance that are not defined yet, and we're still working on them. But that also means that like now is a great time if you find something that doesn't make any sense or that is extremely inconvenient for your particular situation. That it's a great time to pass that information along to myself or Juan or somebody who's involved in these processes, or get involved in yourself, and we might be able to fix some of these things. There are various legislative procedures we can use to insert minor fixes into the CRA even at this stage. So yeah, if you have a weird corner case where you think that something isn't working as it should, do let us know. We might be able to try to do something.
And if you're not sure how to get in contact, send a note to emo@eclipse.org, and we will make sure it gets directed to the right place. All right, any other questions or comments? Oh, Nitin's arriving just in time. Okay, so we're all agreed that Nitin gets all of the action items. Okay, good. So ordered. All right, I'm going to move on to the next topic if there's no other comments or questions.
I object to that last one.
What's that?
Can I object to that last bit there?
No, it's already been passed. Sorry, man.
Curses.
That'll learn you. All right. So we have been given an opportunity. I've talked about this a little bit in the past. We've actually we're at the implementation stage. So I wanted to give you an update. Basically, we've been given a kind offer. I'm going to stop sharing for a second here. We've been given a kind offer from our friends over at GitHub to provide access to GitHub Copilot Enterprise for all of our committers. The idea here is that as long as you hold committer status on at least one Eclipse project, you can have basically it's for personal use. You can use it for whatever purposes you choose. It's not just for use with your Eclipse project, and it's assigned to you individually. Again, this will persist as long as you have committer status. We'd originally thought that we would just make this available to everybody. The way that we do this, or the way that we've been set up to do this, is we've created a GitHub organization with a team in it, and everybody assigned to that team gets this access. Right. So we're carefully managing who is in this team based on committer status. Our original intent was to just add everybody to this team and go that way. But then we decided that that may irritate some people. So we opted instead to make this an opt-in. And we've added some support to make that happen. So the basic idea is if you opt into this, we add you to a GitHub team on an organization. You will get an invitation to join that team. Once you do, magic happens, and you will get access to the enterprise license. I think that makes sense. Anyway, what I would like to do is just show you quickly how to do this. This works now. My intention is probably, well, maybe later today, but anyway, I'm going to try to send a note out to everybody with the instructions. And we're going to update our documentation with information for this. But I'll do a quick demo to show you what it looks like. So this is my on accounts.eclipse.org. I've logged in and I'm looking at my user page. If you go to edit your profile and in here you've probably all seen this at some point. There's a bit of information about you here. One of the options is to link your GitHub account. If you click that, and do feel free to follow along, and you can just do this now if you choose. Opt in to GitHub Copilot Enterprise for Eclipse Committer and click Save. And then again, the magic will happen. You will be sent invitation to join the group and then invitation to access the feature. So anyway, that is, and I'm not going to do it yet because I'll record a demo later. But that's basically it, and then magic happens. Any questions about this? All right. I'm going to stop the recording.